amplify small things. And so our scripting, the way that we script is really bullet pointed, kind of like our script for our podcast too. Yeah. But we just it's high level bullet points. We don't really rarely do we do monologue or like actually go through. We do that in practice. And so the idea is kind of the script is this framework, and then we've talked about, we had a podcast on how important practice is. Yes. That's how we utilize it. And I know every Sunday school can't practice, but that's how we utilize our practice is instead of doing, now we do a whole bunch of ad-lib live. Oh yeah. We do that. But instead of just doing it live, we try to ad-lib some stuff that becomes now a part of the script, even though it's not typed. Right. It becomes part of the script. It becomes part of what we're going to do. Yeah. Because we ad-libbed it in practice.
Yes. Well, what that does too is opens up creativity, because we're like, okay, what would be funny in this moment? What could we do? Like, just thinking like, say, Paul and Silas. If you really start thinking about that was a horrible situation. Yes. It's very dirty, very dark, gross, just depressing almost. Yeah. And then they decided to praise God, which we know the end of the story. But how funny it would be in those moments to like, you don't want to like minimize their spirituality, but act like there's a rat running around and one of them's just scared to death. Little things like that come up in practice because we're practicing that part. Yeah. And
we're usually kind of tired.
Yeah. We're usually trying to get our caffeine in. And then we're like, oh yeah, that would be funny. And someone over here is like, oh, what if you did this? And so then that creative juice starts flowing, and then it carries over into...
Yeah, and like what you said, a lot of times that's how, like, oh, what if you did this, as it's going, and it's a group effort. Yeah. And they're not even part of that scene, but they're just like, oh, this would be funny. And not just funny, like even like, oh, well, this would be cool, or whatever. And then it gives us something. And I think the other idea is that we like ad-lib. Yes. And Sunday school, anybody that's in children's ministry understands ad-lib, whether they're good at it or not. They understand ad-lib and probably use it. Yeah. And we use it a ton, like I said, even live, unpracticed. But what our practice does for us is it allows us to do ad-lib and maybe push the envelope where it's a mistake, but we can make the mistake in practice. Yes. And so we can do something that's dumb and be like, okay, well, let's not do that. Yeah. And we've had that. We've had it where somebody will say something and I'm like, no, that's not really the focus. Or
yeah, it sounds really good in your head, but when you say it, you're like, oh, never mind.
Yeah, and you could have done that live, and then it wouldn't necessarily be a disaster, but it would be like, it wouldn't follow what we're trying to do.
Wouldn't flow, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the advantage of practice. And then what you kind of said, like, I wrote a small reference to like a villain sidekick could involve to a whole scene.
And this has.
Into their whole like subplot. Yep. Well, I thought about that with the rat, what you just said is that, and we've done, like you said, we've done this before, is where we'll take it further. And so it's like, it was so funny in the practice, in the jail scene, that we're like, okay, let's add to dynamic opening. Let's add a rat thing, or whatever. Yeah. And so we'll add this as like this B plot that's going on through.
I could see that, and I'm sure we've done this before. I'm like, you think somebody that's pretty, like say John Keach or someone that's a little bigger and stronger, probably, even though he's getting old. Yeah. Like it would be so funny in those moments to be like, okay, during offering, the rat's going to come out at some point. It doesn't have anything to do with the script. It has nothing to do with offering. It's just a comedic moment, and like somebody run and jump in his arms, and
like
the kids are just rolling.
Help! You're like, what are you talking about? Like, there's a rat. What?
Trying to steal my offering.
And then it sets up for later when he's so scared of the rat.
There's a rat.
We got to do this. I don't know when we're doing Paul and Silas next, but that would be. Speaking of Paul and Silas, I remember we did. Of course, you sing a lot and play music, and so we took advantage of that. We usually try to take advantage of that in Sunday school and have you lead or whatever. But we did. Do you remember? We probably more than once. But do you remember when we did? What's this? Oh, Eddie James, Freedom. That song,
Oh,
and we did that song in right after the jailbreak, and you're like, you're singing that. You and somebody, I can't remember.
I think it's me and Brennan, I want to think.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was you and Brennan. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Then we had a shout down, I think, at some point. I think it switched to shout music. Maybe this is a different time. Break. Yeah, I had a praise break, and we took off dancing. That was fun.
Oh man, yeah. So you can definitely take these small elements, and sometimes it's completely unintentional. Mm-hmm. But the way to, I guess, as far as like where this podcast is useful, is having an open mind for that stuff.
Yeah,
is where, and a lot of it we're thinking of is funny stuff. But even if it's not, like, okay, we just did a fight scene with the it was in Narnia. We did a fight scene between Peter and the wolf.
Yeah,
and so. I don't remember where it came from, but we were in practice and we were talking about it and like, Brendan was the wolf and he was like, maybe I could grab a sword. I said, well, that would be okay, because in Narnia they're kind of like humanistic animals anyway. Right. And so he ended up not, but I think it helped inform the fight scene, because he was, instead of like trying to be on hands and knees or something, he was on his feet. Sure. And they did this epic fight scene. And then where it came to me was we had done a play a long time ago for youth. I think it was with Brother Jared Kasinger, but where we did this, we like practiced and everything, but where you fall backwards and the person's attacking you and then you flip them over.
Oh yeah.
And they do, it's really on them to do the most of the work, but they flip over. Mm-hmm. So we did that.
Oh, nice.
So the wolf gets flipped over and then Dawson grabs his sword, comes up, and and kills him.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was, and that was, talking about embrace the epicness. That was epic. It was like, it was so cool.
Kids going crazy.
The kids were, they were on the edge of their. Well, they were sitting on the floor, but they were on the edge of their knees, and so they loved it, and it was like. We didn't practice that part because they were like in their suits and stuff, so we didn't practice that, but we knew what we were going to do.
Sure.
But the whole thing, and I don't know, I forgot, I need to ask him, but right in the beginning, Dawson played part of Peter, and he lost his sword.
Oh, no.
Like, Brendan hit it out of his hand. And a kid grabbed it and handed it to Dawson. So Dawson grabs it. I don't know if it was planned or not, but it was pretty cool.
Well, I think so. It kind of brought to mind there, the last point on that one is not that scripting and monologues and lines are wrong, but it really restricts the ability to flow like that and create those epic moments, because you're like, oh, I can't do that, I got to stay on my lines, or oh, if I do that, we're going to go over time and they'll come in late, and it just kind of snowballs. So there's almost a pressure to perform rather than just let it flow naturally.
Yeah, and I would say on the flip side of that too is, I think that so there's two things. There's one, there's some people who get a script and they want to read the script.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm part of the team that's working on Acts in Action curriculum. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we said, and we do a lot of bullet points in that too, one of the things we said is we don't want it to be something that you hand a teacher and that they can read it.
Yes.
We want it to be action items that you do. And so, because people on the team had talked about with like different style classrooms, usually maybe smaller classrooms and more separated out, like we do more big and broad age range.
Yeah.
But with these smaller classrooms where they would almost catch the teacher like reading out of this book.
Sure.
And so that's one of the things with our scripts, the way they're written is, to your point, it's not restrictive. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's pretty broad. Like we have a direction we're going.
Right.
But it's pretty broad. And then the practice, I think, preps us even more so that we're, it's like we know more along the lines of what we're going to do, but it also gives us, we have such a comfort level with what we're going to do that it gives us free reign.
Yeah.
Whereas if something is like, okay, hey, here's the subject, we're talking about Holy Ghost today, and this is the Bible story, and it's all ad-lib, I think it actually can restrict you more, because you're like trying
there's no clear direction.
Yeah, there's no clear, and you're trying to find your way. It's almost like I think like a budget, but I was thinking of time. Like some people feel restricted by a to-do list or time blocking or something, which I use a lot. And time blocking or something method like that actually frees you up.
Absolutely.
Because it gives you like this focused time to do things, and so anyway, not to get off subject, but yeah, I think that was a really good point. I think that we can be restricted in two ways. One is if we're trying to do a verbatim script where it's so important that we are just like following this, monologue or whatever, or where you just like throw it to the wind and
there's 2 points for the hour.
Yeah, you don't have anything. So